Yo, what's good, guys? We are back at it again with another MLB The Show video for you guys, and today I'm going to give my true, unfiltered thoughts about the state of this game, MLB The Show 24. What I think of the gameplay, what needs improvement, some primary issues, what the game does well. Just giving you guys my thoughts on the gameplay. I think it's generally consensus among most top-end players that kind of know what they're talking about. As to what the state of this game is and what some of the bigger issues are. So I want to address some of this stuff. Maybe SDS can see this or see some of the other feedback and just kind of address some of these things, because there's some issues in the game that really hold this game back from being one of the better installments in the franchise in recent history. So if you guys enjoy this, if you enjoy getting my thoughts, feel free to like, subscribe. We'll be doing content like this all year. Hopefully no more like rant videos, stuff like that. I don't want to be overly negative. I still enjoy the game. At the end of the day, it's still my favorite gaming franchise. I mean, I chose to make content on it, but there's some issues with it. But you know, if you want content all year, like, subscribe. We'll do tier lists. We'll do maybe some gameplay. Definitely maybe some roster investments, just tip videos, just general, you know, everything involving MLB The Show. This is the place to be. So the first and primary issue that I think everybody can agree on is foul balls. Is it much worse on All-Star? No. So if you haven't made it past All-Star, you probably don't even notice it. But Hall of Fame is basically All-Star 2.0 this year. It's not really a distinct difference. I've lost to plenty of guys that take an all-star BR type approach into Hall of Fame ranked, and they do fine. They do fine. This year, I think having a good eye is the least important it's ever been. You know, there's three primary kind of attributes to your hitting. It's your PCI placement, your timing, and your eye. And I think this year, they're definitely in that order, from most important to least important. You see so many late home runs, early home runs, just because the PCI is kind of close to the ball. And then you get rewarded way too much for swinging at balls. It is insane. And I think the core issue with the foul balls is how they're awarded. It's completely wild to watch, honestly. If you've ever gone into your post kind of game feedback area to see, you know, what swings happened that game, some of them are wild. Balls outside the zone, you don't need to have your PCI anywhere close to foul for some reason. You just cannot get strikeouts on balls out of the zone. And then when those balls are fouled out of the zone, they are rarely, if ever, you know, in play down the line, or a weak pop-up or a weak fly out. Anything like that. Balls are not like punished nearly as much as they probably should be, which is a real issue. And it leads to just foul ball bandits. You will just run into a lot of people online that swing no matter what. Obviously, they can tell if you're throwing a curveball that's going to bounce up to the plate, or if you're throwing a fastball that's going to go over their head. But everything else, they are just foul ball, foul ball, foul ball, foul ball. And eventually you have to throw them the pitch they're looking for, and that's what they want. That's how they hit. That is their hitting approach. And this year, it's viable. Honestly, you can hit like that. And is it making you a better player? Not really, but you can win games just being a foul ball bandit. Just foul ball here, foul ball there. You know, when you swing at balls, a lot of the times you're rewarded with blue pits, or sometimes even home runs. I've given up some really ugly home runs this year on supposedly higher difficulties. So I don't want to cry too much about it, but foul balls are killing this game. That was one of my biggest things on my wish list from last year. If you asked me last year, what do you want to see next year? I would have said some new PCIs. Didn't get any of those, unfortunately. I would have wanted to say a slider in co-op that you can actually move, so you can kind of pick who you play against, like regular ranked. And then I would have said foul balls. Foul balls were an issue last year, especially on All-Star. On Hall of Fame, you didn't see them as much. And then a Legend, they were very rare. And this year, Hall of Fame is All-Star 2.0, honestly. It's All-Star, but the pitches come in a little faster. And your PCI is slightly smaller. So Foul balls are a huge issue. They're the #1 issue plaguing the game, in my opinion. And it makes online gameplay in ranked very frustrating and not very fun to play at the moment. Issue number 2 is bloopers, which I think the bloopers are at like an MLB 2021 level. Like, we haven't seen bloopers be this bad in years. You know, it used to be they happened a lot on All-Star because you had such a big PCI and you couldn't always put the best contact on balls, and sometimes those bloopers would fall. Now it's like every difficulty, honestly, and a lot of that has to do with the foul balls. People are incentivized to swing at balls anywhere close to the zone, and a lot of times that results in foul balls. So I think that's a real issue. The foul balls are contributing to the bloopers, making them even worse. And I see this sentiment about bloopers being a product of poor fielders. That's not the case. If you're watching a lot of these bloopers fall, they're to where no fielder's getting them. Like 99 speed, 99 reaction, Ken Griffey is not getting to that ball. So yeah, when we have fielders like that, it will definitely be a little bit less prevalent, but it's still going to be an issue. The amount of innings I've had where it's just so predictable. It is an 84-mile-an-hour chopper straight back up the middle that somehow nobody can field, or that results in an infield single. And then it's a very late blooper over the first baseman's head, and then it's a late double in the gap, and then it's one good swing, one good perfect, and it's an automatic home run. The amount of innings I've had like that this year are mind-boggling. I've played about 50 ranked games. It is insane how often I feel like I have a comfortable lead, and then here comes the momentum shift. It's bloop single, it's chop single, it's a fielder makes an error, and then one good swing, and your opponent's right back in the game. It is actually a bloop and a blast this year. That's how the game plays. I don't know if it's how SDS wants the game to play, but it's how it's playing this year, and it's leading to some of the lowest skill gap we've ever had. It's leading to just bad gameplay in general, where the better player doesn't get the better result most of the time, which is cool. You know, if you want to argue bloopers and stuff, that's just baseball. That's awesome, but not in ranked. Ranked is a competitive game mode. A competitive game mode should reward good input and punish bad input. And if you're having bad input, you should lose. That's the point of a competitive gameplay. You know, if you're somebody who feels obligated to play DD and you play online, you know, you go play BR or events, or, you know, there's always casual here. Nobody touches casual, but there's always casual. Anything other than ranked. Ranked is a competitive game mode where, in theory, the better player is supposed to come out on top, right? It's at the core of every game. And then, you know, you have professional players on this game that get paid to play the game. They might not get paid a ton, but still, you have people competing for money on this game, and it's probably the lowest skill gap, most fluky year that I can possibly remember playing. It is all over the place. You know, when you go look at top-end players, you look at myself, right? I don't consider myself the cream of the crop. I'm not the best player on the game, but I won 80 games last year before I lost the game. And some of that was not pushing myself, but I haven't really been pushing myself this year. It's not like I'm queuing up against Chev and Pitching Rebel and, you know, Little Man and a lot of the better players on the game. I'm queuing up against Joe Schmoes, who are historically, you know, hard stuck, like 700, high 600 players, and they're just hanging in games based off foul balls and bloopers. And it's not an enjoyable experience. When you go look at the top end guys, they're losing more games than they probably should be, more games than they typically do. You can see Shaquin here, who plays, you know, he's lost 14 games. These aren't the best because they're the top end guys, but Zazie, right? Zazie wins every single tournament on this game. He's lost 14 games. That is a ton for him. I don't want to speak for a lot of these guys. I don't know how they're feeling about the game in general. But a lot of guys are not having fun. There's a lot of people with, like Kreiner, for instance. This is pretty much consensus. The best player on the game. He wins pretty much every tourney, or at least places well in every tourney. He's lost 10 games. He's played 46 games this season. He's lost 10. This is probably the best player on the game. I mean, it's wild, honestly. This is the least skill gap year ever. It is not hard whatsoever to punch up this year and beat somebody that's significantly better than you. And you know, in the past, that would be a really cool experience to have. Just because, you know, you played the game of your life and, you know, you beat the odds. This year, it's going to happen a lot. And, you know, the people that punch up may enjoy that. The people that are getting punched, probably not. Just good input's just not rewarded as much. I don't want to sit here and sound like I'm crying and sound like I should be undefeated. You know, I play games every year where I play worse and I lose. And that's fine. And that's a fine feeling. But when you lose games because you feel like you've been cheated out of them, it's not even good when you win games that you know you shouldn't. I have one game this year where I played significantly worse than my opponent and I beat him because I got really lucky. That's not a good feeling. I don't want that on my resume. I don't want that win to necessarily count. I don't really want it to be a loss either. But the fact that I won a game that I had no business winning is not a great feeling to have. I'm not super pumped after the game. I'm not excited after the game. It's not a rewarding feeling if you know what you're looking for. If you're just casual on the game, then yeah, it might be fun to beat somebody better than yourself. But you know, it's about how you do it more so than the fact that it happened. If that makes sense. I'm sure that probably doesn't appeal to a lot of people watching this video. But I just want to get my thoughts out there, and then this will be the only video on it. Third issue is errors. I have just seen so many just terrible fielding errors this year. It's honestly crazy. And you would probably look at my team and be like, oh yeah, I bet Acuna's made some errors playing a secondary position with a bronze shield. Not really. Not really. The main culprits are Corey Seager, played second base for me for a while, and then Mike Trout. Mike Trout's like a bronze fielder in center field. And I've seen a lot of fielders very similar to him. Dylan Cruz at the start of the year was doing the same thing. Where if it's like a red circle at the wall, they will get the dumbest animation possible and drop the ball for sure. I had one just tonight, actually, with Trout, where it was a red circle at the wall, and he looks like he's easily going to catch it. And he actually caught the ball and then pushed himself into the wall and dropped the ball. And it counted as like a double or a triple. I'm not sure which. That's crazy. Like, why is that even an animation in the game when we were promoting fielder urgency? Another animation similar to that is, I'm sure we've all got the one where an outfielder's jogging to the ball and they're lazy about it and they just drop the ball. Instead of sprinting to the ball, getting under the ball, and catching it, they just drop them. But the main culprit I can think of off the top of my head is infielders, and more specifically second base. The amount of times you see that animation where it's an 80-mile-an-hour chopper and they drop the ball is crazy. I've watched Corey Seager with diamond defense do that. I've watched Corey Seager with gold defense do that. I've watched Jackson Holliday do that. It's crazy. Something about second base, they just can't field 80-mile-an-hour ground balls, and it's wild to me. And it's adding to the lack of skill gap in the game. Like, anything like that that's RNG based is crazy. That's why in years past, I've prioritized having good fielders, right? I say in a lot of my tier lists, I care about defense. It's important to take those outs away. But this year, like, everybody's doing it, right? You're not going to run, you know, you're not going to make a World Series run with Drew Jones in center field just because he plays great defense, because he's going to hit 100. He's going to hit for 100 for you, like actually 100. He's going to struggle that much. So that's just crazy. Like, it's wild that like good enough fielders are not good enough. They make routine errors all the time. And as soon as it happens, the momentum shifts and it sucks. It really sucks. So I want to mention that I think fielding's in a bad spot, and it's not even about the fielder's attributes, right? I said Corey with the gold shield does it. Corey with the diamond shield does it. Corey in a primary does it. You see, even with Mookie, right? Mookie is a diamond primary shortstop. Some of the animations that you get locked into this year are just abysmal. They will just, the ball will be hit to them and it'll be a 99 speed runner going down the baseline, and they will sit there and wait back and not charge the ball, not try to make an exceptional play on the ball. They will just sit there and wait for the ball to come to them. And if it's like an 80-mile-an-hour chopper, that 99 speed runner is there every single time. There are some just absolutely brutal animations this year. Kind of going on errors. Double plays are the most random thing I've ever seen in my life this year. Like in previous years, you would want a diamond fielding shortstop and a diamond fielding second baseman, because that kind of unlocked those top tier double play animations where it'd be super quick and they would not drop the ball or anything crazy like that. This year it's wild. It's really crazy. It's almost like it's not tiered to their animations. I've been getting some solid ones with Mookie since I got him to diamond. But I have seen like bronze Willie Castro and another bronze fielder turn one of the best double plays I've seen all year. And then I've seen Mookie and Corey Seager sit here and basically hand the ball to each other and just like do 360s and do underhand scoops and all types of crazy stuff that are like deliberately slow double play animations. And that's just another element of RNG in the game. Double plays are already so rare to get. Balls below the zone that are fouled or like just put bad swings are put on them are not double plays. You have to throw balls in the zone and hope that your opponent is significantly off of them to get double plays this year, which is, I think, an issue in and of itself, but kind of errors and fielding animations kind of, tie into that. And it makes it hurt even more when you just can't get a double play and your opponent turns 4 in like one game against you. It just adds to the RNG, lowers the skill gap, and it's not a fun experience. And then the last thing I want to talk about is the RNG of Pinpoint. It's arguably in a better spot than it was last year, which is not saying a lot, because for the first month of last year, Pinpoint was the most frustrating, terrible experience I've ever had in the show. The pars were way too big, and they're probably way too big this year. Because you can make the argument that a lot of the top end pitchers don't have great control, and that's fine. That's acceptable. But also with the way foul balls are, Roy Halladay is not going to be as good as he could be in previous years. Yeah, his pinpoint will be good and his pars will be really, really small. But he's just going to get fouled even more. Like last year, I already didn't use him unless I was on Legend because he would just give up foul balls all the time. I do not even want to think about what you're going to have to do to get a strikeout with him this year. You are going to have to roll a splitter up to the plate and hope your opponent swings at it, because that's the way foul balls are this year. And Pinpoint with, more power focused pitchers is not fun. Like Shohei Ohtani is the best example of this. You are either going to get a shutout out of him when he pitches, or he is going to be terrible. I've had games with Shohei where I intentionally throw 4 perfect pitches in a row and he misses outside the zone every time. Pinpoint does not feel like it's in a good spot. How often do you actually throw a perfect pitch with Pinpoint and it goes anywhere close to the middle of the par? It's not often. I always consciously make this distinction, right? I'll pick like a sinker or something with Shohei, right? And we'll put it to where maybe 10% to 5% of the par is outside of the zone, and you throw it perfect and he misses out the zone. If Pinpoint really works how it seems like it works, then that would be like a 5-10% chance of that happening, but it happens routinely. And you notice this a lot with cutters. The RNG of cutters is crazy. Most of the time when you're throwing a cutter in this game, it is either going to miss all the way inside from where you want it and it's going to almost hit the batter, or it's going to miss all the way outside of where you want it and it's going to hang for a strike and get absolutely pummeled. It is crazy, the difference. If you're trying to throw splitters down, right? A lot of times that splitter, that fork ball, it's either going to bounce to the plate to where your opponent's not going to swing at it, or it's going to hang into the bottom of the zone where they're going to swing at it and they're going to pull it for an early home run. It is insane, the RNG of Pinpoint. Give me back like MLB 21 Pinpoint where you could put the ball anywhere you wanted all the time. Because it's better than this, honestly. The amount of times I will be online and can tell that somebody does not have a good eye and they just get an 0-2 count and then they put the controller down because they're like, this guy's just going to sit here and throw me balls at this point. They're just going to throw me chase pitches. And then I'm intentionally trying to throw strikes and my pitcher can't do it is crazy. It's crazy. And if your response to that is you should be using Greg Maddux, Cliff Lee, Yeah, I dare you to use those two guys on All-Star and Hall of Fame. You're going to have an even worse time than if you used somebody with low control. And that's just kind of how the game is. That's how Pinpoint is. It is routinely bad. It's almost like the worst possible perfect with Pinpoint is what happens most of the time. And then you have the RNG of bad Pinpoint, right? You see this a ton online. I have games like this where if I miss at all on my Pinpoint, doesn't matter how bad it is, it doesn't matter if it's a red input or a yellow input or multiple, it goes right down the middle every single time. You have to throw a perfect or the Pinpoint is off, which I'm fine with. But then you'll be in that same game and your opponent is routinely throwing just late, good, just early, and it's just dotting a corner every time. The RNG in that is crazy. It's wild how screwed or favored you can get every time you mess up a Pinpoint input. So that's just another thing contributing to the skill gap of the game being the lowest it's ever been. I think there is so much RNG that goes into every ranked game. You can't take it very seriously, honestly. Like, it feels like this year I could match up against Kreiner and beat him just off pure luck, and then match up against a guy who's getting promoted from All-Star for the first time and lose to him. Like, that's just how the game is this year. The highs are high and the lows are low. And I do want to warn you guys about that. Composure is the most important thing you can have this year. You can't put too much weight into online games this year. And yeah, so be aware of that when you're playing this game. There's going to be a lot of RNG. You're going to have innings that go your way. You're going to have entire 9-inning games that go against you. It's the way the game is. Try to minimize it as much as possible, but hopefully, realistically, I don't know how much I want SDS to address some of this stuff. Because in the past, when they touch one thing, they mess something else up. We saw like the two-way glitch, right? They started like touching the two-way glitch and stuff, and then people got their accounts deleted. So it is what it is. Hopefully they can at least scale back the foul balls, because the foul balls are the worst thing in the world. If foul balls weren't the way they were, then I don't think bloopers would be quite as much of an issue. I don't think errors would be as much of an issue, because you would be incentivized to put the ball in play more. So if a fielder makes an error, that incentivizes putting the ball in play more, and there being less foul balls in general. And then Pinpoint, I think Pinpoint's here to stay in its current format, which really sucks. And it makes pure analog make more sense, because pure analog is kind of contextual a lot of the times with its misses. I think they've kind of changed it a little bit in recent years. But pure analog, if you're late on your drag down, it's gonna miss low. If you're early, it's gonna miss up. If you're to the left, it's gonna miss to the left. If you're to the right, it's gonna miss to the right. Pinpoint has nothing like that. The very first few years, it seemed like it did. If you missed late, they would spike the ball. If you missed early, they would miss up. It doesn't really feel like it's a thing anymore. It feels completely random where your Pinpoint goes, even if you do mess it up. Even if you throw it perfect, it feels random. The amount of times in a game this year I have thrown a Pinpoint pitch and, I mess up one part of it, so it misses like a foot outside. I'm like, gotta be perfect, right? You gotta be perfect. That's the whole allure. That's the whole point of Pinpoint, is if you can be perfect, you're going to be a control freak, and you're going to dot your opponent's life away, and it's going to be a great time on the mound. So I lock back in, right? And we throw another perfect. We throw a perfect right after the okay pitch that missed, and that perfect misses out of the par somehow. The par is put deliberately so that 80-90% of it's in the strike zone, and it misses out the zone, and then you're in a 2-0 count to that hitter, and that's a bad spot. You don't want to be in a 2-0 count to a hitter. So just some stuff to chew on, some stuff to think about. Just kind of want to get your guys' reaction to the gameplay. I think it's the worst in years, and I think that's a real shame, because what they did with perfects this year is awesome. Like, what they did with perfects this year kind of puts into perspective how screwed we were getting with perfects in the past, because perfects are almost a guaranteed home run this year. And they're basically a guaranteed hit. As long as you don't hit them on the line at a corner infielder, or at an infielder, I guess, Most of the time they're hits. You see the occasional one in the outfield. There's the occasional question mark fly ball one that's not an out. And there's the occasional foul ball perfect, which don't even get me started on that. I don't know how that's a possibility, especially if the pitch was a strike. If it was a ball, then maybe you can make the argument, but most of the time it's on strikes. So that's just crazy. But I think what they did with perfects is great. And, you know, everybody wanted to label this game the best MLB The Show in years because you could hit 500-foot home runs routinely. But unfortunately, other areas of the game are so lackluster, and I'm not even talking about content. So I want to get this gameplay off my chest. I want to make it clear how I feel about the gameplay. So when new people come to the channel, I can direct them to this video. If people want to know what the issue is with the game, what issues I take with the gameplay, I can direct them to this video. So it just feels like it needs to be out there, and I get it. Not everybody will agree with me. But you know, I want to give my perspective, put it out there for you guys. Look for some more positive content, hopefully soon. Best lineups video I'll probably do on like Friday, after we get the new content, just because I want to be able to know kind of more so what lineups are in what cards are viable for what lineups, right? Who knows what we'll get for the Nolan or the Buxton team, if anything, on Friday. Who knows what classic cards they'll add. So look out for that video on Friday. Hopefully it will be a little more lighthearted. We'll have some good content to go over. Till next time, peace.